Welcome, everybody, to the Critical Blast live stream. I am your host, R.J. Carter, author of The Destroyer Bully Pulpit, Continental Divide, and Monumental Terror. And we are here with Mr. George Peter Gatsis. Am I saying that correctly?
That is correct. That is correct.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you are the creator of this blue fuzzy guy named Joe King, who's got a number of adventures, and we have linked in our description below to the one that he's got coming up. I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, this is obviously an alien-like creature.
Yes, it
who
is.
has a very Earth-like name. So
Yes.
how does that happen? I mean, why has he got one of the most common names in North America, but he's from across the galaxy?
How he got named, I haven't revealed it yet in the book. But in terms of narrative, it's a audio gag. People, the book itself is humor based. Sci-fi, lots of sci-fi and lots of humor. So I figured, you know what? Let's tell the audience this is a joking book. If you need a list of jokes, this is where you go.
Got you there. All right, so he's traveling the spaceways with his friends, and
Yeah.
they're a motley bit of a crew as well.
Yes, they are. They have. There's a series of dare I say, Gillian's Island kind of characters. There's a captain called Captain DuPont who just dreams the life of managing a love boat, a space love boat. There's an engineer who dreams of being a culinary chef. There's a doctor who loves to practice blindfold. There's a communication expert who just loves to be talkative on the phone all the time. There's a security guard who, well, everything gets past him all the time. and there's a master craftsman, a master of disguise, of one on the ship. And there's an intern, Amber the intern, who always takes over the captain's position because the captain's not around to do the important decisions. He's just nowhere to be found. And there is
so the intern drives it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's other characters too, but these are the key characters to play out in the first book. In the second book, some of them appear as foreground characters, primary characters, and some of them are pushed back in the background.
All right, so the first book was Joe King versus the Average Hero. Am I missing any words in that title?
World's greatest average hero.
World's greatest average hero, not the world's greatest superhero.
No.
World's greatest average hero.
That's right. That's right.
A distinction.
There is, and I'm going to share my screen for you and your audience.
Yeah.
To my domain site.
He said audience. Look at that.
There you go. So what we're looking at, I'll just do a refresh here. What you're looking at is artwork from the book 1 and book 2. These are renders to show people, hey, you know what, book 2 is on its way. There's trading cards, figurines, and original art in both books actually, and of course, nice looking spaceships.
Very nice looking spaceships. Very nice looking space vixens too. It appears.
Yeah, you gotta have that. It's a necessity. And that little green guy with the hat, that was the captain for book 2.
Okay.
Let me give me.
Joe's got a cape.
Yeah, there you go. Here's what the book 1 looked like. That's the cover. And this is one of the panels in book 1. And here's the crew.
Very nice. I like that. I like that robot in the back. That's very sleek.
Yeah, that's those big robots in the back are the engineering crew.
Now I noticed Joe wears a cape.
Yes, he does.
Is that because he fancies himself a hero, or
No,
is that because he doesn't have any pants on and he needs something to cover himself?
No, the cape itself is he stole that cape from Santa Claus, and he's been on the run ever since.
Okay, so obviously Santa's a real person in this universe.
Oh yes, absolutely. And Joe makes Joe makes a visit to the North Pole in book 1.
All right, so Earth does play a role in this paper.
Yes, the synopsis or the pitch or the quick story of book 1 is there's a danger that is spread across the universe, and the only way to slow it down is to prevent the dinosaurs from going extinct.
Oh, seems like the horse is out of the barn on that one, though.
Well, everyone thinks the dinosaurs are extinct, but maybe they're not. Maybe they left the planet before the big cataclysm happened. There's just so many things that you can do in a million years of notice. Getting a heads up. Hey, something's going to happen to the planet in a million years. Do you think you can advance your technology enough to do something about it? And this is what happens back many millions of years ago. And
so the dinosaurs may have evolved and created technology.
Yes, and may have left the planet, or may have been on the planet, may have been on the moon, may have been underground all this time. There's just so many options. And which one did I pick?
Is it a plausible theory?
What's that?
Yeah, I'm feeling like I want to hear somebody saying, is it plausible that the dinosaurs could have created technology that let them leave the Earth? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, we're talking about intelligent creatures over millions of years. The possibility does exist. Absolutely. I mean, they say now, scientifically, they say that man has been around for only 250,000 years. I mean, that's just the one theory of the scientific spectrum. Well, in 250,000 years, we went from walking around looking for food and stuff like that to breaking the atomic chain and making big booms. Well, if that's what happens in 250,000 years, what happens in several millions of years? Interesting.
Good point. Yeah, I mean, why should the dinosaurs have stayed stagnant for that whole period until they were wiped out? So they definitely could have gotten smarter. It's a good story device.
Yeah. And
one of the things that I see, Joe, go ahead.
And the interesting thing is, while the dinosaurs are, one of the key elements to the story, it's not the only thing. The interaction between the characters, the challenge, the overwhelming challenge, and just the hero's journey. It's of each character is highlighted to a degree of some kind between them all.
Now, I noticed that one of the things that Joe has or had with him is a television with the world's greatest antenna.
Yes, a television set. He loves his TV. He loves his earthbound TV. It's a very simple TV set. It's a rabbit ears and lets him catch all the channels from the planet Earth.
But he's watching older shows, right?
All kinds of shows. But I highlighted very specific shows in this particular book for a narrative reason. But
okay, I thought
Go ahead.
I thought that maybe it was because he was so many light years from Earth that he was just picking up the advancing waves of 1956 broadcasts or something like that.
No, then he wouldn't be that far away. I mean, it's just about 100 light years away or something like that. But we're talking about they start off. The story starts off many millions of years ago, and it spans that time to our present and a little bit beyond that. So the rabbit ears that he has are very special rabbit ears that actually I can't speak to the technology exactly, because some of that technology will actually ruin some of the story narratives that appear in this book, the first book and the second book.
Okay, so important plot device there.
Yeah, I have this book, the first book and the second book, have multiple narratives in them. There's a standard narrative where you're just reading the book from panel to panel, page to page.
Right.
The next narrative is that there's a character in the story that is non-linear. So you would have to technically follow that character. You have to jump to page 106 and follow that character's hero's journey as you're flipping from page to page, panel to panel, to see what the character's linear story is. But it's you won't be able to decipher that character's story unless you actually do that, because it's non-linear. Another narrative in the first book is a visual narrative, where there's clues, there's elements and props in the story, in the background and in the foreground, that actually connect to each other in other pages. If you see the connection between these narratives, you'll start to actually formulate a completely different story within the book. And then there's also just a straight on visual narrative in terms of action. As example, in this page specifically, it's a 15-panel page. But if you look closely at the middle panel of the first of this page, you see you see Joe being attacked by these these cells, but these cells are getting shot at. So what's going on? Well, if you look at the bottom in the middle page panel, you see the oldie shooting from the planet's surface straight up. So the narrative on this page is that everything is happening at the same time. So it's not this reading experience actually goes horizontally across for the next 6 pages on each row, because everything's happening at the same time. Everything's happening at the same time. So as you're looking at, you literally have to go from this particular page 6 pages over, reading the rows all one after the other. Or you can actually take your time and just enjoy the page itself for the action and the narrative.
And of course, the brain, being the wonderful computer it is, will assemble all of this into a movie that you can fully ingest by the time you've got to the end of it and say, oh, wow, all those things were happening at once. Sort of like reading Ender's Shadow and Ender's Game one after the other and realizing, oh, I'm reading 2 different stories that are happening at the same time.
Same time, exactly. In this case, 5 rows of action all happening at the same time, vertically, but horizontally they're moving forward in the story.
I feel like Scott McCloud would have a lot of fun with this page.
Oh, well, there's a lot of inspiration from many source materials, and the one thing I wanted to do is actually even create the narrative in the trading cards, because there are trading cards in the books that are available to purchase with the books, and some of the trading cards themselves speak directly to the story, and some of the art actually appears within the story, but you have to be a little clever to compare art or elements to get a full idea of what's going on. So basically, this Joe King versus the World's Greatest Average Hero, and a new one, Joe King saving everyone again for the first time, is a multi-layered stories, to a point where every time you come back to it, you actually experience it differently. But, and I've been saving this for the end, there is a narrative in the book that plays like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. There are notes that are between the panels, just like the guide pauses during the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and says, "Hey, the bevelfish, this is what it's all about. Stick it in your ear," and it does a translation telepathically. Well, in this case, the notes between the panels are similar to that concept, where you actually get a little more information regarding that part of the page, or that part of the panel on the page. So that in itself actually leads to a whole different reading experience altogether, because some of the humor, some of the punchlines in the humor actually exist between the panels between the panels.
All right. Yeah, that's very Hitchhikers to do that.
Yeah, and this, I think you may appreciate some of the humor itself. The punchlines I actually deliver, because the Einstein effect theory, cause and effect.
Right.
Well, I deliver the punchline before I deliver the setup in some places in the book. So when you're actually reading it, when you actually get your frame of thinking that, hey, maybe some of the stuff is nonlinear, you'll actually may pick up some verbal cues, visual cues, and pick up the punchline before I deliver the setup in the book.
That seems like you put an awful lot of pre-thought into getting this story done in a clever way. How long did it take you to assemble all of this?
I've been doing this. I've been publishing for 30 years now, since September 1990. I've been. Let me show you. Click here. I've been producing my own content since September 1990. Comic books and stories, and
all right,
and every story that I write, it's written in full script format, feature film script format. But then when I actually venture to make it into a comic book, that's when I start to layer elements into it, 3D elements, photographic elements, artistic elements, of course, and the capper of it all, the puzzles, and the humor, the visual gags, the non-linear elements, just layers upon layers. In terms of time, it just varies. None of these books, there's no consistency in these books, because these books, the genres in these books are family, drama, comedy, as you can see,
sure.
Mystery, thriller, action, fantasy, adventure, sci-fi, different genres, different disciplines, different executions, different processes of putting it together. So it's just never the same. But
Now I'm
but
seeing a
but
variety.
the end results and the end result is a very dense read.
Okay, I'm seeing a variety of different artwork styles here. What was it that, when you decided to do Joe King, that lent itself to be rendered in a sort of Avenue Q in space kind of fashion?
Um, that's one of the visual elements, the visual storytelling elements, which is the experience itself. A lot of the science fiction elements in Joe King are based on actual real science, Planck's theory, Einstein's theory, um, large scale farming, cause and effect, quantum, what do you call it, magnetic gravitation effects. So the thing about all this is that I take all the real world science, even the warp ring that NASA premiered back in 2013. Um, all this hardcore science, I took it, distilled it, and put a humorous cartoon in its place to support it. So that way you get um, the humor of, say, Warner Brothers, like Coyote Roadrunner gags, and at the
Right.
same time you're getting hit with actual real science in the story.
So like Wile E. Coyote falling off the cliff, telling you, I'm going 9.2 meters per second squared, and I'm going to hit with an impact of, but I'm going to be okay.
Exactly. But you know what? If I pull out a balloon, and this balloon just happens to have enough helium to slow my fall down, maybe I'll be able to reach over and grab, the side of the cliff and bounce a little.
There you go. Whatever can get, the science across uh,
Yeah,
and make it palatable to the reader.
it is. But the interesting thing is people just don't realize that they're actually experiencing real science in the book, and that's one of the great narratives or gags in the book is that there's a part in the book where I mention the common unconsciousness, and that's a really heavy science uh, concept that not a lot of people have discussed about. I'm sure you're aware of it, but the normal person who's just
Barely.
the normal person who's just out there, enjoying science for what it is. 1+1 = 2. If it's hot, you get burnt. If it's magnetic, it will attract or repel. But the common unconsciousness is that the human brain or the brain itself works electronically. There's an electrical field, and if you're in tuned to a mass number of people or creatures who happen to have a common electrical field in their brain pattern, you are sort of, in a very general sense, a little understanding, a little empathic, a little clairvoyant.
You're a node of a network.
You're part of a neural network subconsciously.
It's like Bill Cosby used to say at the beginning of Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, if you're not careful, you might learn something before we're done here.
Exactly. But in this case, I don't even tell you that you're learning real science. I'll talk about it in an interview, but I don't even actually tell you that in the book. And I mean, I even
Now,
have
with 30 years of publishing.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I want you to finish up your thought, Eric.
In
I was
this
just going to say,
story,
with 30 years of publishing.
yeah.
Sorry.
It's
We're
okay.
lagging. I'm sorry.
Okay,
With 30 years of publishing behind you,
yeah.
You're in a good place to speak about the impact of crowdfunding on the publishing business.
Oh, yes.
Because obviously we're doing it before crowdfunding.
Well, actually, crowdfunding existed since the inception of the direct market. The direct market itself is a form of crowdfunding back in
That's
the late
interesting.
the late 60s, early 70s. Before that, books and magazines and comic books and everything was going through the newspaper stand, and they would but with the understanding or the business model that if it doesn't sell, then they rip the cover and they send it back for credit for on the next issue, which actually wreaks havoc if you're a publisher, because you have to give credit to stuff that's not selling, and so you have to really pick up your slacks and make a very good story, make a great product, so that way it does sell out. That way you have no returns. That way you can actually continue to make a good profit. And now, when the direct market became came to life, when a few people said, you know what, we'll take the. I'm just paraphrasing the whole history. You know,
Yeah.
we'll take, you know, a portion of the print runs or the stuff that goes out to the newspapers, and we'll take it and sell it directly to our customers, and it will be on a non-return basis. The books that we buy from you, that we get from you, and the publisher said, "Wait, what? What? You want to buy books from us on a non-return basis? Oh, that's something made in heaven." So they build a catalog, just like you have a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, which becomes your catalog. They advertise in the catalog just like you would do on social media. The retailer would order the books out of the catalog and pay the money up front, just like the people on Kickstarter or Indiegogo when they support a particular book during crowdfunding. And then they wait 3 months to get the book. And crowdfunding, they wait anywhere between 3 months into a year, depending on circumstances. And the customer receives the book. So the system it's already existed in a form of crowdfunding, and it's existed for a very long time. And what's happening now is the system is adjusting itself, becoming slightly. It's not changing. It's just adjusting. There's a lot more people now creating content. Back in the 70s and early 80s, there were independent books, Cerebus, the Aardvark, the Badger, the Flaming Carrot, was it the Crow, Tyrant by Bissett, and many other books. New Humans as well. Eternity.
Oh, yeah.
Eternity, was it the Rocketeer? Was part of the independent movement. With Neil Adams in his studio. Megaton Man or Megaliath or something like that, and
Megalith and Ms. Mystic.
Yeah, Ms. Mystic, exactly. And me, my book premiered in the 90s as a show of force against Marvel and DC. Marvel and DC came out with Batman Digital Justice and Iron Man Crash. And before that, in 1985, they came out apparently with the world's first computer-generated comic, where it wasn't really a computer-generated comic. They used a computer. They made the thing look bitmap. They printed out stuff. They colored stuff and on paper and stuff like that. It wasn't computer-generated. They used a computer in some aspects of the production. But when I produced the Black Diamond Effect in September 1990 and published it and showed it off to the world, it was a true computer-generated comic book. It was all in a vector format. The vector format only exists within the computer. The bitmap format, scanning and pushing pixels around, that's not computer-generated. That's enhancing on the computer.
Sure. Yeah, if you go back a few weeks in our video timeline, you'll find we just did a review on Batman Digital Justice and talked about how it was just the use of a tool and in fact how it made artists a little bit lazier, and particularly egregious with Batman Digital Justice, because there were only like 10 faces in the entire book that just kept getting cut and pasted over and over in different places. I mean, it had fewer faces than a Jim Aparo portfolio.
Oh yes. While the production techniques in Batman Digital Justice were not lazy, and I don't consider them lazy. It's just they were necessary at the time, because the technology, they were doing it on a Mac 2, a souped up Mac 2, but still, the effort in that book necessitated that they actually use and reuse elements, backgrounds, positions, faces, everything, because there was no way for the book to get produced any other way at that time. But to me, at that time, I was managing a service bureau, and I was handling hundreds of customers' files every week, and I was tech supporting the problems. I was fixing the problems. I was managing the printing off of the machines, film print, paper print, doing key proofs, the whole enchilada. And when I saw Batman Digital Justice come out and Iron Man Crash, I'm going like, this is terrible. This is not computer generated. I know it wasn't computer generated in the true sense of the word, computer generated. So I said, the heck with this. I was going to make my own comic book series. I might as well just do it now. And I came up with the Black Down Effect. In the first issue, there was 3 different printings on the first issue, and the issues after that followed on a couple of months basis to several months, sometimes a year, different spans, whenever I get to the next book, because the narratives in each of the books was dense in concept and also visual puzzles and all that stuff.
Well, now I'm going to have to go back and start digging through my back issue bins again. I thought I was done with that for a while. I'd done an interview a little while back with Henry Vogel other nights, and along the way I was picking up also issues of X-Mutants and New Humans and Shattered World.
Yes, absolutely. And what about the Dome? I forgot, by Dave Gibbons, I think it was. He did a book called The Dome, and that was computer generated, because they modeled everything in the computer, and they rendered it out in the computer. But that came, it was 2 or 3 years after 1990. It was 93, I think it was.
Okay.
That was a clever production. It doesn't stand the test of time, but you know what? In terms of technical execution for that time, it was very good. It was very good.
So let's talk a little bit about the project that's coming up here very shortly. I'm sure it's, you pull the trigger on that one now, and that is
I'll just go to it right now. Twitter.
Joe King saves everyone else.
Joe King saving everyone again for the first time. And
yes,
zoom in
that's
here.
the one. That sounds like time travel's involved.
It is, in a sense. It actually plays cues to what happens in the first book. There's direct references in the first book. And the story itself is Joe just ordered a pizza as someone stole the planet Earth and placed it on the other side of the universe, right in the path of a supernova. Joe and his team have 120 minutes to complete an impossible mission before the pizza is delivered.
So if they don't complete it in 2 hours, they don't eat. Is that
Well,
is that the horror that awaits?
you do not want to miss the delivery on the pizza. I got to tell you that.
Okay.
It's very important. But the gag itself is that each page in the second book represents a minute. So the second book is actually in real time. 120 pages, 120 minutes. And the challenge.
Now
Go ahead.
that's something I have not seen done before.
No. I like the second book. The first book has 4 or 5 different narratives that you can experience by going back and reading the same thing over again from a different angle, from a different perspective, and coming up with a completely different narrative, which adds to the density of the story. And in the second book, I got 7 narratives lined up for this. And one of these narratives is that, can you actually go through the book, read the book in 120 minutes? That's going to be a challenge.
That would be a challenge, because I think, your average comic book has at least some dense pages that take longer than a minute to read, but then you get the big splash page and you're done in 2 seconds. You've caught back up.
Yes. I do not do any of the visual cues of today's comics where it's anywhere between 3 and 5 panels on a page. No, my inspiration is Asterix and Tintin and Alex Raymond and Al Williamson. The way they compose their pages, the book is very dense in panel structure. I mean, yes, I do have some splash pages here and there for the narrative, but the majority of the book is very dense. There's 15 to 17 panels. 17 panels is my most on one page. 15 panels is maybe average. About 10 panels on a page is usually the majority of the book. And if I were to expand the book,
that's 2 more panels than your average 9 panel.
What's that?
That's still more panels than your average 9 panel 3x3.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And if you were to actually take Joe King versus the World's Greatest Average Hero, or just book 1, if you were to take that and reconfigure it to the standard 3 to 5 panels on a page, on average, it would be like 500 pages.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how dense it is, because the first issue and the second issue is basically 3 dense Asterix books or 2 dense Tintin books. Because Asterix books are, I think, 48 to 50 pages, and Tintin books are about 60 pages long. So
right.
you're getting that kind of density in story.
So we know we're getting 120 pages.
Yeah.
I would assume on the less dense pages, if you read quickly, slow yourself down so that you take the full minute to take it in and get that real-time effect in. But what's a person going to need to get in on a 120-page book? Because that's hefty. I mean, and again, you're talking 120 pages of story here, because I've seen and I've backed books where it's like, oh, you're getting an 80-page book, and you get it, and you're getting like 40 pages of story, and then you get some sketches, and it's quite the same thing as actually getting an 80-page or 120-page graphic novel.
Yeah, no. This there's no art pages on this. There's no gallery. There's no behind the scenes. From the first page to the last page, you're bombarded with story. Just dense, multi-layered, multifaceted, multi-narrative story. Your experience in these books will vary over time as you go through them and you start to put the puzzle together within the narratives, the multiple narratives. It's something.
And what's the buy-in on that?
What's that? Oh, the buy-in.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't figured out regarding the second book, but the first book is very simple. You can get the. Let me just go to it and actually show you in a sec.
Because I went to the Indiegogo page and that was closed, so I didn't know if that was still available in on-demand format.
No, I recreated the store directly on my domain site. So
Gotcha.
if you go to my domain site and you go to my domain site and you see this Joe King icon here
Right.
on my menu bar, you click on the Joe King icon and you'll go to the online store, my direct online store. And there's a link from the Indiegogo page that's closed, which takes you here. So here you can just buy the digital for $9.99. If you want the actual book itself, it's $39.99. Shipping included, by the way. All these prices, shipping included, worldwide.
Oh, great.
If you want to go a little further up, $79.99, you will get the book and an original art on a custom artboard. And then a little further up, $99.99, you'll get the book, original art, and 18 trading cards. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 18 trading cards. You don't have to, get a campaign or work or, support a campaign that's in the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to get 1 or 2 trading cards. No, you get 18 trading cards on just the buy-in on this particular tier or level. And then if you really want to challenge yourself, you can get the ultimate package, which is $499. You get the standard book, you get the trading cards, you get the original art, but then you get the oversized hardcover 13 by 19 inch book.
That's oversized. That's coffee table.
Yes, it is. It's huge. It's huge. And you'll, if you've seen some of the visuals here, some of these visuals, like this particular panel here, will be the size of a full page comic page.
Very cool.
And that is just a panel in the book. All this detail is in a panel in the book.
That's the kind of book I would have to actually lay down beside on the floor and read when I was a kid, because you just couldn't hold it and read it. It's too big. It's too big for my arms.
Yeah, exactly. I want the reading experience to be there. I want people to thoroughly enjoy it to such a degree that's to go like, wait a minute, it's like I'm seeing this for the first time. And so we click here, we'll take it to the Indiegogo page. And on the Indiegogo page, anyone who signs up for the Indiegogo page right now, before the campaign goes live, will get a discount on everything that's offered on the campaign. Everything, even tiers or perks that I haven't come up with, and I may create some during the campaign. The people who have signed up early for the email list, they're the ones who are going to get the discount, regardless of what new perks and tiers I come up with.
And how long do you think it's going to be before you actually turn this on? Have you got a date in mind?
No. I am currently right now just finishing up my fulfillment. So as with the moment I confirm that the last customer has the book in their hands, I figure maybe a couple of days to a week after that, I will be launching the next book.
Okay, so it's not that far in the future, one hopes.
No, it's not. And the
people need to get in on that while they are thinking about it.
And these are going to be the trading cards, the artwork for the trading cards for the second book. Some of the trading cards. Also in the second book, the figurine for the second book is going to be that spaceship.
Okay, slow down here. Figurine?
Yeah, I produce my own figurines. I produce high quality, retail ready 3D printing products, and in the first book, I had the Joe King figurine available to the customers. After the campaign's over, I removed the Joe King figurine from the standard purchasing. In the second campaign, I will have just for the campaign only the spaceship figurine, and quite possibly a Joe King figurine as well. But once the campaign's over, and I move to the direct online store on my domain site, the figurines will no longer be available.
Yeah, I can imagine that, you've already mentioned you're experienced in the IT industry for several years, so you're doing your own wireframes on these and modeling them out.
Yes, I'm modeling everything out in Maya, high-end 3D app that's used for stuff like Jurassic Park and whatnot. And if you look closely, there's an example of what the figurine of the ship is going to look like.
That's gorgeous. Somewhere in the house, I've got a 3D model of myself that I picked up at a convention. It's a miniature like you'd use in a Dungeons and Dragons game, and it's painted up and it looks just like me, only 20 pounds ago. And for whatever reason, my wife thought that I shouldn't lose it, so she hid it from me. And now I've not seen it for a few years, and she won't tell me where she put it. I don't know why.
Well, if you find it and you see there's any pins stuck to it, or maybe evidence of it being pinned.
That was my first thought. I wanted to tell her there was no quantum entanglement between the plastic and the body, but my son thought it was cool. I think that's why she took it, because I think she thought it was going to end up in the bottom of his toy box and scratched up and damaged and all that.
Well, that technology,
I tried to.
That technology is, I believe, the sandstone technology, how they're able to capture you, and so it's very brittle.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm thinking, I've kind of run out of questions here, but I'm very intrigued by what I'm seeing. I would definitely recommend that all our viewers hit that link.
It's very exciting. It's a completely different experience. Anyone who picks up the book, I get direct phone calls or DMs or emails telling me that this is not what they expected. I mean, they were thoroughly surprised, and they were pleasantly surprised. They loved the humor. In some pages, they were laughing quite a bit because the humor in that particular page or that particular punchline spoke to them directly. And the humor itself is wide ranging, so it's not like you're experiencing a Seinfeld episode constantly. This is more like science with lots of humor. And not the kind of science with lots of humor from The Big Bang Theory. We're talking about the kind of science that you actually think and go like, okay, you're seeing the gags play out like a Warner Brothers cartoon with a science twist. And the reading experience, just beyond just reading it, because it's all ages. There's no sex. There's no violence. There's all that stuff is not there. There's no harsh language at all. But if a child picks up the book and reads it, they'll have a different reading experience than if an adult picks up the book and reads it. It's much like watching a Pixar movie.
I miss the days. Oh yeah. Well, even things like the old Warner Brothers cartoons. There were things in there that went right over some kids' heads, and but I remember one scene where Bugs is running from Elmer Fudd, and there's a phone booth ringing, and he stops to answer the phone. And it's a radio contest, and it's this huge, math question, and Bugs gets it right in 20 seconds, and or rather, like in the snap of fingers, I should say. And the announcer's like, "That's absolutely right. How did you get that?" He's like, "Oh, it's easy. If there's one thing us rabbits know how to do, it's multiply."
Yeah.
That's that's something that I didn't get until I was older watching it in reruns. I'm like, "Oh, they went there. Okay."
Yeah, I remember that gag. That was a great gag.
Everybody who's watching the replay on this, I urge you to go down to the description line here. You will find yourself a link to the Indiegogo, and click on that link and sign up. You will be in the running. Well, not in the running. You will be in the market for the discounted tiers as they come available. Also, if you look in that description, if you like this channel, obviously we have to exhort you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a beat. And if you'd like to help us out through some of the merchandise, Critical Blast has a publishing arm now. Our first young adult novel is on Amazon. Bulletproof, the first book, Origins. It features young Cody Haywood, a 16-year-old boy who wakes up one day to find out he is completely and impervious to harm. Unfortunately for Cody, he's got all the attention span of a ferret on pixie sticks. So it's a challenge for him to focus on what he can do and how to combat the gang of terrorists who are now aware of his presence and would like to capture him and discover what makes him so invulnerable so that they can be so as well. It's currently on sale on Amazon. If you want to click that link, you'll be helping out the site immeasurably. Mr. Gatsis, thank you so much for being on with us tonight. It's been enlightening and illuminating.
Thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure meeting you and being on your stream.
Once you got the show on the road, so to speak, we will have to get together again, possibly maybe mid to late campaign, and see what kind of a push we can do with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.